Hey everybody, welcome back to the Clinical Cookout and welcome to Auntie Sug Psychoeducation. Today I'm going to be talking about OCD. What is OCD? OCD are recurring, consistent, unwanted thoughts, ideas, or sensations. These are obsessions. And these obsessions make people feel driven to do something repetitively, over and over again. Those are the compulsions. So the thoughts and obsessions, they're very distressing, they're persistent, and they may cause rigid behaviors. And they significantly affect daily living. OCD takes a lot of time out of your life. Studies show that 2 to 3.5% of the population is affected. So no, not everybody has OCD, but there is a small amount of the population that's affected. So now let me break that down. The first thing that I talked about was an obsession. And an obsession is, in that example, is the thought that I'm going to catch germs and the germs are going to kill me. The compulsion is the hand washing. Some people think that, you know what, if you clean excessively, people use it very, very loosely. They say, you have OCD. This is a stereotype of OCD. People who clean excessively, they got to continuously vacuum. They want a clean house. They have OCD. If they consistently wipe the counter, oh, it's because she has OCD. That's not what OCD is at all. That's what people think OCD is, and that's what they stereotype OCD as. But those things may not be taking up a lot of time. Best example I can give you, if you have a mother like mine who will clean you up under the table, that does not mean that that person is OCD. Somebody who is OCD in that exact same scenario might say, did you clean the kitchen? And they might think, if you didn't clean the kitchen right, there's going to be all these kinds of germs, and the germs are going to get in your food. And then what if your food poisons you and then you die? So the thing that they might do is clean the counter 10 times. I have to clean the counter 10 times because if I clean the counter 10 times, then I'll know that it's clean. I have to bleach the counter 10 times because I know that it's clean. And these activities take up a significant amount of their day. The excessive cleaning is a compulsion. A compulsion is something that you do to rid yourself of the anxiety associated with your thoughts, with the thought of the counter being consistently dirty and now everybody's going to get sick and everybody's going to die. So we have two different types of compulsions that I'm going to talk about today. Overt compulsions are the compulsions that tend to be physical. So they tend to help you try and lessen your anxiety. So if you say, did I lock the door? Did I turn on the alarm? That's called a covert. That's the obsession. The compulsion is checking and checking again and checking again. Now remember, this takes a lot of time. You might be on your way to work and you might say, did I turn on the alarm? Did I lock the door? And then now you have to leave and go back home from work and go and see if you checked and turn on the alarm. And now you're in another cycle to where you're checking and you're making sure that you checked all those, the doors and the alarms. That's an example of it taking a lot of time and it being an overt compulsion. Covert compulsions may not be so straightforward. Covert compulsions are there to soothe the anxiety that you have, but a lot of the anxiety that goes with covert compulsions is mental. An example of a covert compulsion may be consistently counting. So before I leave the room, I have to count to 5. And if I don't count to 5 before I leave this room, then something's going to happen when I get on the other side of this door. Another example is intrusive thoughts. Sometimes people have intrusive thoughts like, did I hurt somebody? Did I molest a child? Did I kill somebody that I don't know about? Or one of the biggest things that I've noticed with intrusive thoughts is that people think that they've hurt somebody that they've never even met. So somebody died and you could say, did I hurt that person? And they might have died of cancer or they might have died of AIDS or anything else, but you never even had contact with that person. And spending the majority of their day and the majority of your night thinking about that can be distressing. One of the ways to relieve covert obsessions that I've seen is that people have to consistently confess. So they have to say, I might call a friend and say, hey, do you think I would ever molest a child? Or do you think I killed so-and-so? Even though you might not have even met that person. but the constant thought about it causes you to confess. Or there's some religious OCD where, will God get me if I thought about watching porn? Will God get me if I watch porn? If I watch certain TV and somebody may have on a bikini, is this porn, and will God get me for this? So these things are taking up a lot of time in the day and in the night, and they cause a lot of mental anguish. That mental anguish can cause so much anxiety in that person that the anxiety leads to depression. There are times where people are so depressed because they think that they can't get rid of the thoughts, or they don't even know how to label it. They don't know that it is called obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD can be straightforward or it can be hard to treat. One of the things that might make it hard to treat is if this person has no insight. So there are different levels of insight with OCD. Some people have insight and they know that their compulsions are just not based in reality. They know that they're not true. And they might even say, you know what, that's a pretty ridiculous thought. A person who may not have insight, who may be more difficult to treat, is somebody who is physically anxious about it, mentally anxious about it, and they do not know that it's not rooted in truth. Clinicians who are skilled in treating OCD may use exposure response prevention. Now they're going to call that ERP. So exposure response prevention is basically exposing the person with OCD to the stimulus. That might sound barbaric to somebody. That might sound like, I'm afraid of tigers and you're going to put me in the room with a tiger. Not exactly. If you're afraid of tigers, then they might not say, oh, you know what, go get Shira, let's put her in a room with a tiger. What they might start off with is exposing you to the picture of a tiger and exposing you to the roar of a tiger, in the room over time, like via internet or something like that. So there's like small little steps that can get you to being exposed. And then like the in vivo exposure, which is in real time, may be taking you to the zoo or, having you go to the zoo. When somebody is exposed to that stimulus of a tiger or just the thought of a tiger or being scared of a tiger, they might have heart palpitations. They might physically want to run away. They might hear that tiger and physically want to run out of the room. So the response prevention is characterized by you teaching that person how to deal with that anxiety in the moment. Mindfulness. Ideally, you want to have this person doing mindfulness activities, which are breathing activities, 4-4-6, like breathing in for 4, holding it for 4, and then letting it out for 4. Or doing the body scan, feeling all the feelings, and then recognizing that where these emotions are coming from, and then breathing to bring themselves back down. Another grounding technique is bringing somebody back down in the moment. And a lot of times I do this by saying, name 5 things that you can hear, 4 things that you can see, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Basically, anywhere you go, your senses are always engaged. And so bringing you back to your senses is a great grounding technique to let you know, I'm not at the zoo inside the cage with the tiger. I don't have to run. I'm right here in this office and I'm okay. You want to, before you do any exposure and response, you want to have your patients very well rooted in grounding techniques. You want them to know exactly what they're doing, because when you do get to exposure and response prevention, they're going to need to be grounded. It's more in depth, definitely in treatment, but this is just to give you a little snippet of how that goes. Another way of treating OCD is medication. Sometimes people do not get over these compulsions and obsessions just on their own. Sometimes people need medication to help them get through the thoughts and help them with treatment. So we never just advocate for medication by itself. We always advocate for medication as well as therapy. OCD is a very, very real thing. So I encourage you, if you do have questions about it or you do feel like you have some symptoms, there's nothing wrong with going to go get it checked out. Just because you get checked out for OCD doesn't mean you have it. And just because you don't get checked out does not mean you don't. So that's all. And I thank you for listening. And I hope that you learned something today.